My name's Daniel Bird.
I'm Andrzej Żuławski. I'm the writer-director of this film, Possession.
Why did you decide to shoot the film in Berlin?
I thought about this film in Poland, in Warsaw. And I thought that the story of a woman possessed, a woman not living in the reality of the communist times and regime and surroundings, but having a very strange affair, would be very well contrasted with what was going on in our Eastern European countries at that time. But I've made two films in Poland before, and the second one, The Devil, was arrested, was imprisoned by the authorities, and it stayed in this purgatory, in this hell, in this prison for films for 18 years. So I was thrown out of Poland. They gave me a passport, and at that time we never had passports in our houses. We just had to beg for one. And I went abroad. I went west. And I tried to find in my mind a place in which the circumstances of what I have thought for the film would be telling and moving and graphic. And I thought that Berlin, this divided city, which is not divided today, the wall crumbled, everything changed, but the human heart didn't, I think. So I thought that Berlin was the best location I could imagine. And I wrote the film actually in New York. I was with like $5 per day in a New York hotel, the Mayflower, I remember. And I saw seagulls, in the sky, and I had this tiny room on top, and Paramount was paying me for God knows what reasons to stay over there. And I wrote Possession. I wrote the story, and I wanted very much to shoot in Berlin, this city between East and West, this city of divided hearts, of divided lives. And I did it. I did it through a strange trick. One day I've met, I remember his name, Mr. Charlie Bluedorn. He was the head of Gulf and Western, which owned Paramount. And we went to dinner, and he said, well, what's your next film? And I said, Possession. Well, what is it about? He said. I said, listen, it's about a woman who fucks with an octopus. And he said, this is impossible. I said, yes, it is impossible, but it's possible in certain circumstances, in certain places, in a certain state of mind. I said, listen, if I'd be an American director, I would put this film in Detroit or Chicago or a big industrial town where people are working on cars, and this guy works on cars, and he comes home on Saturday night, and the wife has an octopus as a lover, and that's it. This is about human condition. So he looked at me as you would look at a crazy man, and maybe I am, and he said, okay, how much money do you need? And I said, listen, we have the budget wrapped. We need $2 million. And I said, you have it. Do it, by all means. So we went to Berlin, and we shot the film in Berlin as I intended to.
How did you come to cast Sam Neill and Isabella Gianni?
Isabella Gianni I admired very much. She was a very gifted teenager, mostly in the French theater. And she had this incredible sexual magic, even at 15. And I asked her to play the part immediately. I thought it's for her. And she answered me saying, but this woman has a child. I can't play a part of a mother. And I said, listen, but you have a child, so think, reflect. And she was away, and she sent me a telegram saying, oh, yes. And she played the part. At that time, she was in the French cinema, in European cinema, she was, I'm sorry to say, nothing. She destroyed all her prospects for a good American career and all her prospects for a good French and European career, because she behaved outrageously. She was a spoiled brat. She was an impossible person. And so we offered her the part. And I must say that during the film, she was absolutely perfect. She behaved like a good little soldier. She was there. She created no fuss. The only thing she did when she saw the film after, she committed suicide because she never wanted to see the dailies. So she really didn't know how do we look at her. And she committed suicide. But being Isabella Gianni, and you must understand that in Europe, Isabella Gianni is a diva. She's like, you know, La Tebaldi, La Callas. She's a big thing. And she went to the bathroom and she cut her wrists with a G2 machine, which cuts you like 0.5 millimeter or whatever of skin and not much deeper. And that's her too. Because she said, in one interview, she said something which is, I think, quite French and intellectual, but profound. She said, this is psychological pornography about her part, about what I was trying to show of her. And she said, you can't do that. The camera has no right to go that deep down into a human soul. And I never really understood what she wanted to say by that, but I know that she was disturbed. And I said to her after, look, if the dogs will jump on somebody and bark and bite, it will on me, but you will have all the prizes. And she won all the possible prizes in Europe for this part. And she did the film like for peanuts, as they say, for nothing. She was in a closet. Sam Neill I saw in an Australian film by a woman director. It was called, what was the name of this lady? I can't remember. But the film was called My Brilliant Career. It was a very beautiful film. And so we called him in Australia and said, do you want to make an European film? And he came to Europe. And from Europe, after that, he went to Hollywood and he went to Spielberg's Jurassic Park, and he's making a brilliant career. So I'm very proud of what happened, because at that time he was really also a virtual unknown.
The film has a very distinctive visual style. It's also very different from your previous films. What was your attitude making the film? Did you deliberately set out that this film required a different style with these very long tracks?
Yes, but I'm afraid this is an academic discussion, because every film requires a style or no style at all, which happens today most of the time, which is the TV style is prevailing, even if it's on huge screens. With, you know, a friend director of mine noticed that an average European film uses like 400 to 500 shots, camera positions in a film, and a big American film uses 5,000, because they have the money and the time to do it, which doesn't mean that we wouldn't do that. We would love to do that, but we have nor the time nor the money. So we try to synthesize things. We try to be elliptic. We try to be clean and clearly cut. Apart from that, you know, the story of Possession is the story of my life. This is the only film I've made in my lifetime, which is really autobiographic. It says something, and this is the reason I wrote it, about my personal problems as a man with a woman I dearly loved. It's a film about a breaking up. It's the film about the end of a relationship, of a marriage. And I'm a strong believer in couples, in marriages, in children. And so in the first part of the film, which you are viewing now, most of the scenes which are taking place between the man and the woman are really picked out of my life, from my life, and even the dialogue. But I wrote the film not to be nice to myself, not to be, how do you say, complaisant, complacent with myself. No, I thought that this basis asks for, it's like you build a house and you have this basement or this ground floor. This is the ground floor, which is the reality of a marriage breaking up. And then you need a second floor. You need something above in order to transpose the story, to say that this means something. And it's the eternal story of the fables you tell your children. They have a morality. They have a witch. They have a devil. They have something which is out of the ordinary. The first part of the film establishes a kind of ordinary situation, and then I hope it goes the one step above, one level above this thing, in order to give you a mythic dimension to what's going on.
Could you say something about the composition in the films? In several scenes, the two main characters are framed in doorways adjacent to each other, and in this scene, they aren't facing each other. Clearly, it's not naturalistic.
No, but I don't know. We spend our lives like not facing each other, like being indoors, like having our backs turned. And I don't want it to be a theory, but in order not to be, how to say it, in order not to cry on our misery from the first moment, I needed a kind of coolness about the film. That's what I felt. So for instance, the scene you see was made because the mirrors in this scene was at a 90-degree angle. Therefore, the camera approaching the wife and the husband quarreling was invisible, but they were like separated by something which is like a glass, a wall of glass, which you don't see it exactly that way. This is the trick of the cinema, but it gives you this feeling of estrangement, of separation, of uncommunication, and we were looking after these angles very much during the film.
I presume you decided to shoot the film in English before you cast Sam Neill.
I don't care. I'm a Pole. I shoot my film in Polish most gladly, and my French is as bad as my English, so I can do it in English as badly as I can do it in French. This is the producer's wish, and I think because the producer was a very young producer, and she had all those dreams of selling the film, whatever. She thought that in English it would be easier, and she was deeply wrong, because the film was a hit in France. It worked very well in the French market, but we had to dub it, and it was in fact never seen in the Anglo-American market, so it was a miscalculation, I think.
How did Sam Neill respond to your very personal style of directing?
We had a lovely time together, because he's an extremely articulate actor. There are actors who come to the set in the morning and they say under makeup, what's my dialogue today? And they try to understand what's going on. And what film is it? They ask sometimes, like Gérard Depardieu. But he was very constructive. Once I glimpsed at his script, and the script was underlined, with red and blue and green, etc., because he was building a part. And as films are not shot in order, so we shot the end before the beginning, like every film does, he had to know exactly at what point of craziness, of madness he is. And so he built these little charts. And I'm very grateful for him, because he's the glue holding the film together. Isabella Gianni comes and goes and appears and disappears and makes a big bang every time she appears. And in fact, in a way, it's easier. But he had to be there all the time and glue the pieces together only by his being here all the time. And I think he's made a very humble and very basic and wonderful job out of it.
What instructions did you give to the child actor we see on the screen at the moment?
You shouldn't give much instructions to children because they are the best actors ever. You know, dogs are even better than children, except for one thing. They are only good in the first take. A kid is fantastic if he does that for the first time and he knows what he's doing. He knows the story and more or less, and he knows the state he's supposed to be in. But if you redo it, retake it, he'll be less interested, less fresh. So the only handicap with kids, so shoot once, like John Ford, with adults whom he considered as, you know, not really grown-up children. So John Ford, thought that the first take is the best take. With children, it's absolutely accurate, the first take.
Tell something about, you use that image recurrently with different characters in the film.
The body.
Yes.
Yes. But every marriage is about bodies, isn't it? So if you touch a body of somebody you love, the skin, the softness of it, the whiteness of it, the warmth of it, it tells you things about what's going on, where the person is going, is she going, is she staying, etc. So, but also the body is so delicate. We don't have furs, we don't have plates on it. We were so naked, you know. And so he touches, in fact, as far as I remember, he touches his son once and his wife once, and it's absolutely the same gesture of love.
Yes.
I must.
Yes?
I must.
You must restore order. You must leave him. You will call him. You will say it is over. Now, I don't care if you tell him you love him, but he's not your family. Your family is here. You must call him now.
But I can't on the phone.
I don't trust you.
I have to tell him face to face.
I don't trust you.
Johnny's character cannot articulate what exactly she wants. Do you see this as one of the reasons why you made this film, the way that people actually fall apart in relationships without actually knowing consciously why?
People are locked in apartments. You know, if you don't make war today, where's your ring? Where's the ring for your violence, for your impulses? It's a domestic ring. It shrunk to something between a man and a woman. So apartments, beds, bedrooms, and in the same time we are walking our lives all the time. So it's a paradox that in this this apartment they are right now was like 34 square meters. I don't know how much is it in inches or yards or whatever that is. It was very small. It was so small that some very important shots we shot being in the windows. The whole crew was with our asses, hanging outside the walls because there was absolutely no room for the light and the camera. And this claustrophobic element, we are locked in apartments, and whatever we do, we live like that, we white people, okay? At the same time, the peripatetic motion, we have to walk, we have to move, so this caged movements of people is one of the keys to possession. They walk in small spaces. And it's a. I hate theory, you know that, but this is exactly the state of mind they are in, locked and moving about this cage all the time.
Could you just say one final word about the distinctive colour of Possession, because that's probably the most striking aspect?
It was natural to me because in every possible theory of colors, and here again we go theoretical, blue is the color of separation, of despair, of loneliness. And it goes from Goethe to the Iranian Sufis to the Japanese theories. But I don't care about theories. Berlin is a town in which many things are blue or many things are yellow. And this blue-yellow contrast is the contrast between the two apartments the wife inhabits in the film. She lives in a blue one in which there's separation, and she lives in a yellow one in which she recreates something which is for her like hope and future and whatever that is. Look, even the phone book is yellow. The subway is yellow and blue. So it came naturally looking at the town, looking at the place we were shooting, and this universal gray which comes upon the two main colors, which sticks the color together. It makes the film not fragmented, not broken by the middle.
What did you ask from your regular composer, Andrzej Korzynski?
To be discreet, to be delicate and discreet. So he wrote this extremely subdued, extremely delicate music for a piano, as far as I remember, and then some instruments. You know, the problem of music in films is such a huge problem. So you see a film and suddenly you hear a huge orchestra, and you tend to ask, where is this orchestra? Is it behind the screen, under the screen, above the screen? Is it with us in the audience? It's nowhere. But films never made without music, even in the silent times, when the silent films, you had scores and you have people playing whatever instrument that was with a score which more or less fit the image. So music is ingrained in the mythology of cinema. We need music in films. So we tried only this music to be as non-present as possible.
Can you say something about Heinrich, this character here?
I hate him. As simple as that. I hate the guy. And he comes from true life. You know, he's a guru. He's one of these intelligent people who discovered a way out of the dreary normalcy. And I don't know what sect he is in, maybe his own. And he knows. And Sam Neill looks so foolish not knowing anything and confronted to him. I think that Heinz Bennett, who plays that, I mean, the character, even makes love so much better than Sam Neill, who's just an ordinary guy. He does everything best. And I hate him because he's totally wrong from A to Z. But as I told you, this is a film based on something I went through, and this guy is dangerous like poison.
Stop it! I just arrived from Hamburg. You weren't listening to me. I was just trying to make...
He talks as if he's liberated Anna.
Yes, he thinks so, and maybe in a sense he did. But that reminds me of an old communist saying that they were very brilliant about this. They said, liberated towards what? What do you want to do with your liberty? Which is absolutely horrible. But on the other hand, there is a parcel of truth in it. Do you liberate in order to destroy? And this is, I think, his program. Or do you liberate somebody or something in order to construct, which would be rather my program. So I constructed a film.
You don't just simply make fun of Heinrich's character, because physically, as in this scene, he actually reduces Mark to the floor, and he's constantly taking control of Anna in this film.
Yes, but to a point. because there is this point we were talking about at the beginning, which is when reality stops and the myth, the meaning starts to come to the film, I hope. And he's as lost in it with his theories, with his ways, with his karate zen, with his whatever. He's as lost as the simple guy. I mean, because everything is, or to rephrase it, nothing of it is true. You know, the only thing I can say, we don't know. We don't know. The only thing I know is that every possible theory, every possible religion, way of being orchestrated, army, religious army or army, whatever, all of this is wrong. So what's on the other hand? It's what? Anarchy, it's individualistic feelings pushed to the extreme. No, I don't think so. I think there is human decency. I think films, as you know that we've talked about it this morning, films are about morals. They are more strongly than anything. And if they lack morals, this word lack will be stronger than anything you see on screen. And the very recent cinema, which I admire very much for the technical prowesses of it, lacks totally morals, which means that it lacks the backbone which makes for every possible tale you can tell. And this film also is about morals.
Where were you?
I wrote you I was at Margie's.
That's not true. I spoke to her.
I was with him.
It's not true either. I saw him. I may escape from him, but he's not lying.
I was with friends.
Who?
Your friends!
I'll check.
Yes, check!
Why did he...
How did Johnny sustain this intense level of performance throughout the shooting?
This is a question I don't ask, I don't answer gladly, because you are picking at the core of my trade. I've spent 20 years to understand what's acting, what is it about, and I don't understand it still. I think it's very obscure, it's murky. It's murky and it's religious, as I say often. Religious in what sense? You know, when you see a shaman performing a ceremony with the Indians, the Sioux Indians, or in the Eskimos, or in the New Zealand, or in the rainforests, or whatever, he's performing. But is he performing? Is he believing in what he's doing, or is he just performing? You know, of course, he's believing in what he's doing. And acting, if you go to the core of acting, this is it. This is the feeling. So if you have this religious feeling about life, I'm sorry to use these pathetic words, you will act every day, 10 hours per day, and with the strongest intensity, without being tired, because it's, at the same time it releases so much of your pulsions, of your tensions, of your unhappiness. This film comes from a very simple vision. We are all unhappy, and we don't deserve it. We would love to see things around us, in us, be otherwise than they are, and we don't know how to deal with that, how to do it. I don't think basically we are bad people, bad persons. We just don't know. And acting is exactly about that. We don't know. So acting is a way to show it. If you see an actor who knows, he's bad. It's my deepest impression. Greta Garbo or I don't know, James Dean, whomever, they didn't know, or they projected the image of somebody who doesn't know, who's maybe better or not, but he doesn't know. And this makes them vulnerable, lovable, near to our heart, close to our heart. And therefore we like them. If they would know, we would hate them. You know, Hitler knew, and Stalin knew, and maybe Clinton knows, but I don't.
Do you think the director has a responsibility to be truthful and sincere, or do you think that's the choice of the director?
I don't know. I don't know many directors whom I respect so much, so I don't know. But I know that if you want actors to follow you and do exactly what you say, you have to be what you are saying. You have to give them this elementary honesty. They know you are not lying, and therefore they know they are secure in your hands in a certain kingdom, realm of thinking. But then after the film, they might think that this sincerity, that this simple movements of the soul are wrong, and they should calculate, and they should think about the careers, and they should be so much more sophisticated about it. This is possible, but if you have the charisma, the strength of being like naked in front of them, they follow you. They're human.
Give me your sweater.
I loathe you, Marge.
Could you say something about Margie's character?
Marge is coming from true life also. I know her. I think the name of the lady acting here, playing, was Margit Carstensen. She was a very good German theatrical actress, and I saw her in 5 or 6 Fassbinder films. And she's the unloved part in the film. I mean, these are the most difficult parts to play in a film, because nothing's for her. I mean, she's playing the ugly, she's playing the against, she's playing the second, she's playing the and then I cast her leg, you know, in this big plaster cast, so she was handicapped. She was very brave, and a strange feeling for a director, you know, to use actors, because Adjani and Sam Neill were not used. They were asked to perform more than the part written. And these actors, like this guy, who's a very good actor, living in Berlin, I don't remember his name, they were used to fill the parts of people necessary for the action, but not necessarily lovable or interesting by themselves.
I have a photo of my wife here.
Mock's career is left rather ambiguously, but clearly has something to do with spying and espionage on a government level. Then why does he go to a private detective agency to find out what's happening with his wife?
Yeah, because, you know, a CIA guy putting a detective on his wife's life, this is not true. This happens only with films with Will Smith or Denzel Washington, but normally it doesn't, it's not so easy. And also the whole story of Mark's activities, professional activities in the Eastern Bloc, that stems from my origins. I'm from over there. So what seems in the film, I guess, unclear is very clear for me. He was a spy, and he went to a place like Romania or Bulgaria, I think, where some stupid communist dictators wearing pink socks because they want to be so Western, you know, are still around today. But I never took enough care to explain that to a Western audience, I admit. For me it was clear and I couldn't care less. But Mark going to an agency and asking a poor detective to do this basic gumshoe work, this is pathetic, you know. You deal with governments and you still have to to go down there to seek an obscure guy and to ask him to follow your wife. It's paradoxical. It's funny, and life is funny, isn't it?
I understand that in the first draft of the screenplay, there was a section of the story involving Anna's first husband. Could you say something about that?
Oh yes, I wrote 10 minutes of 8 minutes about her. Who is she? Where does she come from? So it involved her first husband, who was an old writer, unsuccessful, but very much older than she was. And I asked Bernhard Wicki to play that part. This guy was a distinguished film director and actor. He made a wonderful film called The Bridge in, I guess, the early 60s. Then he went theater, then he continued. And I shot one scene with him, and I abandoned him. I said, go home, goodbye. He was drunk from morning till night. And this is also the story of cinema. You have all these ambitions, and you have all these theories about whatever you will take, you'll put into your film, and you have all these admirations for people who were making wonderful films before or whatever. And then suddenly this guy appears, and he's drunk. He doesn't know his lines, and he fucks my schedule because I can't wait. We did this film on a very tight budget, and I couldn't afford him. So I said, it reminds me of the story of John Ford. Again, he was shooting in the desert, his beloved desert, and there was a sandstorm for 5 days. So the producers alarmed because there was no dailies, no nothing. He was shooting nothing. Couldn't see a thing for 2 meters. So they came with the big Cadillacs in Utah or Nevada or whatever that was. And they said, look, we are losing money. What do we do now? So he called his assistant and said, how much scenes were we supposed to shoot up to that point? And the assistant said, look, Mr. Ford, it's like 15 pages of the script. So he tore the 15 pages out, and he never shot them, and nobody ever saw the scar. And this is cinema too. So I tore out Bernhard Wicki, and I hope you don't see the scar.
Do you regret that?
I think cinema is a bizarre thing. It's composed of haphazards and things, of strong will, and it reflects really well what we are going through life. If a director wants things, gets the things exactly, by the end he will still yell, I needed this, I needed that, I never had it, because the ambition is immense. And of course I like much more to see films of 3 hours length than a film of 1 hour 50. I never understood why the heck a film should be 2 hours long. What's this tradition? I love long films, especially when they are sentimental. I think one of the strengths of Titanic is the length of the story. Not because the boat is sinking, because this idiotic love story, because those two improbable characters needs this time in order to sink at the end. But to shoot 3 hours, you need a lot of money. And all this incidents, accidents, I rather like, because a film it's not engraved in marble. It's a very unsubstantial thing. You look at it on TV or on screen. It's a puff of light it's nothing, in fact. It's nothing full of meaning and full of beautiful things and the best when it's really good. But doing a film, what you can't do is as important as what you can do, because they give you the money and the time. And the balance between it's I don't know, most interesting to contemplate.
Your way of understanding very simple domestic events is very violent. I mean, you certainly don't shy away from showing the blood.
You know how many liters of blood you have in you? Do you know?
Not offhand, no.
Okay, a lot. And we are mostly moist, and we are mostly water and blood. And we are covered with very delicate and fragile skin, which holds us together like a vestment, in fact. So why to shy from it? Tell me.
We can both go and pick him up at school.
I can't.
Could you say something about the doppelganger motif? I mean, you've used this in a previous film, your very first film, The Third Part of the Night. Why do you think this is necessary for the story?
Necessary would be a difficult word to grapple with. I think we are divided into somebody who wants to be good and somebody who wants to be bad or who is bad. And the whole story of our lives is this struggle between the, let's put it in an easier frame, between the devil and the angel. We were not totally devils, we are not totally angels, but we fight. And in art, if cinema is an art, very often we use this image like a mirror to this divide between us. So in this film you have two girls, and they are the same girl in a way, and you have two men by the end. The one she fought, the one she thought repressed her, and she didn't love anymore, and the thing she recreated by the end, and that's the man. There's no escape from it, I think. You can't recreate Michelangelo's statue, recreate the man whom you think hurt you, but whom you love.
We're coming up to a scene in the film which has caused a lot of problems for various people writing about it. Could you say something about this scene in the subway where Anna refers to what she miscarries or something?
Oh, this is the painful part of what I have to say, because this film was shot on a tight schedule, like most European films. We couldn't have time. Look, for instance, these scenes, it seems so easy. She walks empty streets. These were the most popular inhabited streets of Berlin. It was full of people, people without homes. You look at the state of the houses, and they were all Turks and Iranians. Look at the street. There's nobody. But in order to get that, I had to go into the street and beg them. And I said, listen, I'm not a capitalistic swine. I'm not American. I'm not even German from the West. I have no money. I'm just doing a film. And it's a film about the human heart. So if you don't go home for the 15 seconds I need to have the streets empty, I can't do my film. And I come from Poland, which is even poorer than you are, believe me. And I made this little speech, which is not demagogic. It was really true. And they all went home. They took their gear and they disappeared, like for the 3-4 minutes we needed. This is cinema for me. You talk to people. You relate. They all went away for the 10 minutes we needed.
At this point in the film, it takes a very different turn.
Yes, there's a part in the film which was really, which was really bad for me. I resented it immensely. Which is that the producer this lady producer, wanted Carlo Rambaldi to make the special effects. And he was the guy who's made Encounters of the Third Kind, Spielberg's film, and other American big productions. And due to, I don't know what ambition of hers, young producer, she went to LA, she talked to him. And he said, all right, I'll do the monster, as he said, in this film. And this is the most painful part for me of this shooting, because whatever I read, critics, they had every right to say it. They said there's something unfinished, something unclear, something not really clicking well in the film, and this is it. Of course it is it, because the Carlo Rambaldi came from L.A., and you will see the scene very, very soon. We're very happy to be in Europe again because he's Italian, and he had like a huge pile of pink condom in his luggage. And he said, now we'll do something with it. I said, what do you mean? And he said, yes, we will shoot the close-up, the whatever, we'll paint it, we'll do it. I said, listen, but I have to shoot by tomorrow morning, and that's it. And he said, what do you mean by that's it? He said, we were shooting the close-up of this little Martian guy coming out of the flying saucer in the Encounters of the Third Kind for 3 weeks in order to find the right angle, the right lighting, the whatever. I said, listen, 3 weeks, this is what I have to shoot the whole film. Are you kidding? Tomorrow morning we shoot or we die. I mean, there's no film. So he went a bit pale, and he unwrapped his condoms, and it appears that he's made a huge contraption, a huge guy, a pink guy, like 3 meters high, resembling a condom still. And we couldn't shoot with that. It meant nothing. So what I wanted is Isabella Gianni in the subway gives birth or miscarriages something, okay, which is gluey, which flows out of her. This thing you see in a tub here, in a bath, and this thing slowly takes shape, and the final shape is what you will see at the end of the film. We never got that because he wasn't prepared to. So what he did is. He suddenly woke up and he said, oh, I'm not an American, I'm an Italian. I can do things in 2 hours. He locked himself in for the night in the hotel room with 2 assistants, and they produced this thing with film stock and scotch tapes and glue and whatever. So we were really improvising, which is a crime, which I hate to do. But we had no choice. And again, if I look at it backwards, it's one of the accidents of life which, for me, finally accepted it, because the film went more mysterious, unclear, more murky than it. I don't have a murky mind. I rather go for clean and clear-cut situations. So this impossibility to do it the way I wanted, finally maybe looks better than what I wanted.
That's not entirely true.
Did you have a clear idea what the monster should look like in the film?
Oh yes, and the thing was that I went to LA once, and his drawings were perfect, but they never corresponded to what he brought on the set. Never, because he was spoiled by the American system, and he knew that it takes weeks and weeks and weeks, and we had only a few weeks to do the whole film. So it was a shock for him, it was a shock for us, and we did what we could do. There's a second instance of this laziness of thinking. By the end of the film, maybe it's too early to talk about it, the person she recreated, the wife recreated, comes into a staircase, and he should have the eyes the blue translucid eyes of the second, the good, the pure woman the hero encounters. And we made this eyes out of plastic, put them into Sam Neill's orbits, and they never photographed. They were never imprinted on film, because this kind of plastic doesn't imprint itself. Because this young French, very gifted photographer was so much in love with Isabelle Adjani that he never made the tests.
At this point in the film, the relationship between Heinrich and Mark changes. Do you think this coincides with the introduction of the monster in the story?
Yes, sure, because Heinrich thought up to now that he is the second guy, he is the first guy, and suddenly something overwhelms them. There's something else. There's a third element. There's this fairy tale element coming into a very domestic triangle and crisis. So he's as lost as the hero. They're both lost. They don't know. They play games, but they're screwed. They're fucked, both of them.
From your Zen brain. Okay, maybe it does boil down to a sexual contest, in which case I'm sure you win.
At this point in the film, there becomes a small conversation about God, and the film is awash with religious imagery. Yet the morality of the film is not very universal, let's say. The morality is much more complicated and individual.
I try to make films about morals, but without morality, because I don't believe in preaching. I don't think films are there, and some of my Polish colleagues are making films, as you know, like that, saying, this is good, this is wrong, this you should do, this you should. I don't believe that. I think that if you put your finger into a moral dilemma, a moral crush between people, if the audience is not totally stupid, they will draw their own conclusions. They will say what's useful for them, what's not, what's talking, what's not, what's appealing, what's not. But don't preach. So my films are open-ended, I hope. In the same time, they're open-ended, but they are not dealing with Titanic. They are dealing with delicate movements of, as I keep repeating, of the human heart. And you have to know by the end what's your answer to what you see.
I don't like that sailboat.
Why? He's funny.
I don't like Mummy to like him more than us.
Who's prettier, Mummy or Helen?
Is this brought out by the contrast between Helen, who Mark actually says she's very sure of herself, which is in stark contrast to Anna's character?
She seems to be, I think. You know, again, the clash of the characters in this film is between people pushing behaviors and values forward because this is their only shield. Behind this shield, they don't know. They don't know. Not one of them knows really. Therefore, they are vulnerable. You can attack them. You can hurt them. They can hurt themselves. Which is again something which is a reflection of, maybe I'm totally wrong. You know, I see life in a very disturbed and obfuscated way, but I think this is the way it is.
Compared to Anna's flat, Mark's flat and Helen's flat is also very antiseptic.
Yeah, but look at this one. Look at the kitchen. It's white. It's clinical. We do try to make our surroundings clinically beautiful or clinically clear or artistically clinically clear, and because we're lost, and this thread of being lost between the Berlins, the politics, the morals, it's at the core of the film.
So you know exactly the danger
Did Johnny have a problem switching between the two roles from Helen to Anna?
No, look, she's a real actress. She has no problems at all, except after 2 or 3 days of shooting, and she was shooting with this false eyes. I came to the set in the morning, and they said to me, "Listen, she doesn't want to shoot at all because she's in a state, and her eyes are all puffy, and she's like red in the face, and she's crying, and she has an allergy to all that. And what can we do? What can we do?" So I went to see her, and she was hiding in a corner, and she was monstrous. She was like somebody whose body refuses this eye. So she was really absolutely ugly to look at it. And I said to her, "Listen, somebody told you that you are ugly with this." I said, "Yes, the makeup man." I said, "Aha." So I said, "Listen, if you don't calm down and unpuff and become yourself in 5 minutes, I'll kill you." Silence. I went out. 5 minutes later, she came down. She was perfect. So she's an actress.
When Mark sleeps with Helen, Anna's doppelganger, is he unfaithful?
Yes, but to whom? Towards what? Yes, he is. Of course, he is. But the one he was supposed to be faithful to doesn't exist anymore. So what does it mean?
I'm sorry. It wasn't very wise of me. This makes you think you've been right all along.
Could you say something about the respective professions of the two characters? I mean, Helen's a teacher, and Anna's also a teacher of sorts, but ballet rather than schoolwork. Was this a deliberate decision?
Helen, which is the good girl, let's say, is a humble teacher. She teaches elementary things to little kids. Anna is a frustrated teacher. She wanted to be a dancer, to make a career. She wanted to be important, and she never could. So they are like the opposite ends of the same process of being.
Could you say something about these two detectives? Why did they have to have this this special relationship? Why did you introduce the fact that they're both gay?
It's human, isn't it? It's human. It's. I think it's touching. I think, of course, the eternal problem of the scripts. If things are slightly deviating from a straight line, it causes questions and problems. But if they are only on the straight line, you have the film with Denzel Washington or Will Smith, and that's it, and goodbye, and whatever.
Let me ask some technical questions now. Was it time-consuming laying down all these tracks for these very personal tracking shots along the ground?
No, the crew was good. The crew was good, and my system of working is I'm always on the set like 2-3 hours before everybody comes, and so when the crew comes, I can very precisely, I guess, say this is the first shot, this is the second, this is the 10th, this is 20th of the day. So they have time to prearrange their schedules and do it. And at that time, we were shooting in 1980. This film, Steadicam wasn't invented yet. Nobody had a clue that it could be, and we all always wanted Steadicam. It's one of the greatest inventions of you had color, sound, widescreen, whatever. Steadicam changed the way of it changed first for TV and then for cinema, but it changed the easiness in which, you know, for instance, in this shot, what a pleasure would it be to follow this guy into the staircase with the camera. You can't do that when we are on trucks.
You have a very close professional relationship with your cameraman.
With all the cameramen I had, yeah, because, you know, again, it will sound stupid, but the cinema is seeing. What marks me a lot these last years, it's that cinema became sound. Sound is much better than image. And if you see the same film which impressed you so hugely on a wide screen and you see it on cinema today, it's because you don't have the sound equipment to reproduce everything they did. Sound is really attacking the nerves of the audience, not image. And but for me, cinema is image, and sound comes slightly second, behind. So you know, I'm the guy who tells the crew this is the way the camera will see the scene, and they follow. It's not the DOP who sets the angles, and no, it's me, because it's my film, because I see it. So I never had problems with any director of photography. They're good, they understand, and they are humble. Therefore, they if they see that you're not a preposterous moron, they follow you. They say, all right, we understand, we do it that way. And they light.
When you studied film in Paris, you actually trained, I understand, as a director and as an editor. You also have a very distinctive editing style. Could you say something about that?
I shoot on tight schedules, on limited budgets. Yeah, they are not small budgets, I can't complain, but they are limited. Therefore, I shoot, again, John Ford for the third time. You know, he invented a system in which the producer couldn't really recut his film. So this is a shot made after the famous night with Rambaldi. So this creature is made out of glue and film stock. And the mattress had a hole in it, which we did with Doug. And my assistant was under this supposed creature, laying down and moving his arms and legs to move this whole thing. And this whole German crew in this smallish apartment had ropes attached to the limbs and head or whatever of the creature, and sweating profusely. They were saying "Scheiße, Scheiße," and moving the whole thing. It was like an early animation film, you know, from the 1900.
Why does the monster have tentacles?
Every monster has tentacles, don't you think so? I believe. I mean, so to go back to what we were saying, you know, if I hadn't have this very clear vision of shots and how to cut them, intercut them, maybe the films would be better, because I would give myself more room for suddenly here. A close-up of Adjani, why not? You know, or a slower shot of him, but no. So I'm. This is the John Ford method again. Glue the things together, otherwise you have no film. So the producer can say nothing at the end. He's just subdued by the matter of the film.
Where does Heinrich send a cine film of his times with Anna Tamor?
Oh yes, a film in a film, the film about a film. Well, as you know, every film has its own coulisses. How do you say that in English? Backdrop. Things which are sometimes more interesting, for humanly speaking, than what you're actually doing. For instance, Isabel came to Berlin with her little kid and her husband. The husband was the DOP of the film. And she was asked to play my ex-wife, quitting me, leaving me, in Warsaw 2 years ago, 2 years before. And it all made a huge mishmash of human relationships. She behaved, I think, with the utmost cruelty towards her husband doing the photo, the DOP. So the film was even worse than the story we were talking about, we were filming every day. And I was half plunged in my souvenirs and in the memory of what happened. And I had a kid also with my wife, which reflects the situation in the film. And it became a huge imbroglio of people, hearts, sex, whatever. Heinrich, and this was really innocent, because he's a German actor of extremely brilliant career, living in a Zen life. He was living in a villa somewhere in the woods in Berlin with his wife and kid also, without electricity, without heating, because he was very Zen. So he somehow was Heinrich, but not in the real life. We were locked in this relationship of two women, kids, men, etc.
You say I.
Can you say something about this piece of dialogue there where Anna speaks to Heinrich holding the camera and says, "You say I for me"?
I think she speaks her heart out. I think this is really what she thinks she is, and she is a person divided. And she tries, without really finding the words, because nobody ever finds the words. If we would find the words, there would be no stories. We would understand everything and not making movies. She's trying to explain this division, this divide in her. I think this is her most sincere moment in the film, this little 8mm so-called film, amateurish film made by Heinrich.
And then I read that private life is a stage only at playing in many parts that are smaller than me.
You talk about the significance of mirrors in the film, or cinema generally.
Mirrors, doubles, to divide people into two, to look at oneself in a cold surface. This is, I think, the distance we need to understand anything. If we are all in the hot tub, the bath, the whatever, how can we see anything? You need a mirror. In this case, the mirror is the camera of the guy who films her.
Tell me that I need you to fill me up as if I'm an empty space.
Is this fundamental to films or art in general?
Films, art, in general, these are three concepts which seldom go together. You know, film and art, it seldom is together, and but when it tries to say something, it has to understand that the simple fact that you are putting a camera in front of somebody, it's a mirror. It's the first mirror. And the actress playing in front of a camera knows that it's a mirror. And she accepts it, but does she want to be better than she is in reality? Does she want to be more beautiful? Does she want to be more true to herself? This is a mystery. It depends.
One final word on that scene. Anna seems to have tremendous difficulty articulating her feelings and emotions in words.
Yes.
Do you think this is why you made this as a film rather than a novel? For you also write novels.
The only way she has to do things to make things clear and for her or clearer is to do, is to act, and this is cinema. Acting, doing is cinema. Talking is radio. So she acts because she's confused. She's incoherent with words. Therefore, she has to do things in order for us to perceive them, to perceive what's going on with her, which is the case, I think, with most of the women I knew.
As sure of yourself as you thought you were, so you keep coming.
Mark says a very interesting thing here. Why does Anna keep coming back to Mark?
Because he tries to understand. And in this scene, he tries to adopt her language. He tries to, like when you deal with a child, you say, oh yes, so this is the monster who comes every night from under the bed, and I understand, we will do something about it, etc. Or the wolf, or whatever. And he adopts, which means the film also is, for me, is the story of a very sweet guy who goes into the woman's folly, the woman's craziness, and he follows. He goes down with her. He goes under.
It's very quiet here when you're out.
It was very quiet when you weren't here.
Why does he follow her
Because
down?
he loves her.
Just see if we can sit together peacefully.
You have Anna say at several points in the film that there's no such thing as good and bad. Likewise, it's very naive to separate the bad Anna and the good Anna as Helen. Why does Mark continually follow Anna rather than Helen?
Because the heart is obscure, killing people with a bottle, with a broken bottle, or doing whatever she does is obviously wrong, but not for the human heart, not for a man who loves a woman. And he will try to understand, even going into criminal states of being, because it's more important. He will never do anything wrong himself, but he will cover for her. And it's like going to hell in order to retrieve. It's very ancient myths about it. I'm sorry, I'm not Christian, but even Christ went to hell in order to come back and save humanity. Supposedly, I don't feel we are very much saved after 2,000 years of this story. But this myth of who was it? The Greek goddess of fertility going down to hell to retrieve the daughter in order for the crops to raise again in the spring. It's an eternal myth. Therefore, she looks at Christ after that.
Following that scene, the two people sitting on a sofa, it's a staple of the soap opera. Yet at the time of the film's release, you said you wanted to take the film above the level of soap operas, make it into something like cinema, and you most explicitly do this with this next scene. Could you say something about that?
I think soap operas are an extremely cleansing exercise. I'm all for soap operas. I just don't want to see them. I don't care. But I think they are made with simple moralistic rules, and then they for the woman staying at home and cleansing the apartment, they are like catharsis of something. So they are very much okay with me, and everything will live in our ring of fight with the partner, with the sexual partner, the love partner, is a soap opera, except that if it sticks to the formula, if it stays as a soap opera, it means nothing. Therefore you can do it every day for 6 hours and the day after, and then it will take forever. So the ultimate thing for me was to take a soap opera, which is in fact possession, and pull it to a dimension that just doesn't exist. For instance, here, and she will have this hysterical scene. She can't bear it any longer, and she will give birth to something which is really like a cancer inside her, which is eating her, which is killing her, which wants to go out of her in order of being I don't know, liberated or again a slave, because we can't escape. We can't escape.
Do you see this as a form of catharsis, your personal catharsis, or Ajani's, or the audience?
Look, I'm a filmmaker. I'm making. I hope shows. I'm making a spectacle, as they say in French. I'm making 2 hours of something you can view, which doesn't mean that I'm getting through a catharsis through it. No, I don't think so.
Following on from what you've said before, many people will be asking at this point, just what did he say to Ajani? How did he convince her to do this? Or are you not prepared to say that?
No, there was no convincing. The scene was in the script. She knew that she had to do it. But, technically speaking, what was she supposed to do, being a white actress in Berlin in the subway at 3 a.m, because it was closed for us, in a bitter cold? What could she do to make it, to do it? What force was she asked to find in herself? And it's a voodoo thing. It's again, we were talking about it maybe in more theoretical terms. Here you have theory in practice, which means that if you go in a trance, she bangs her head against the wall. It doesn't hurt. She rolls. It doesn't hurt, because she's outside of herself. In the same time, she is an actress acting. It's a shaman thing.
A lot of people have said in situations like this in your more recent films, what right do you as a director have to do this to an actress? What do you say to those critics?
Crap. What right an actress has to gain $10 million per film? They are acting, they are paid, they are asked to do what their profession is. This is easier for an actress to do than to lay down in a bed with Michael Douglas and pretend that you have an orgasm, which is for me much more disgusting than to deliver your own self to a camera.
Johnny refers to that scene as a miscarriage. Are we to infer from that scene is not linear with the film? Is it an imagining out of place?
No, it would be linear if the thing which flows out of her would be in the tub, which wasn't. Which means that the disruption of the logical process, and as I told you, I'm somehow glad that there was a disruption. This disruption could have seemed logical. This gluey thing is in the tub. In this tub, it shapes into a something, and this something becomes the husband. This is the logical steps. We couldn't do it, as I told you. But would it be much better then? I don't know.
Do you not think that cinema is normally constrained within like the tradition of the novel? Do you believe in like a subconscious, a stream of consciousness in cinema? Say, for example, like in Nicholas Roeg's films, where the past, present, and future are happening at once.
I have no theory. Every Nicholas Roeg does his own films. I don't have a theory about it. I know that if you happen to touch a nerve, something which is deeper, more ingrained than everything which culture teaches you, you disturb, you touch, you make people think. And I think that cinema is an extremely powerful weapon to do that. And I deplore that it abandoned The cinema has forgotten this strength, this elementary strength of putting an image on screen and you in front of this image saying, "Oh God, what is it?" Because we want so much to please. We want so much to cut the angles, that this elementary force of cinema. Who invented cinema? How did it ever came into living? It's a series of such hazards, such incredible, unexpected things that suddenly you have an image and you have Ajani and Sam Neill and a boy on screen, but it retains like a biting animal. It retains this force. And most of the good films have disappeared because they don't want to bite anymore. Nothing wants to bite anymore. They want to lick. And that's it.
When you put together the screenplay, the story, did you allow the story to grow from anecdotes surrounding each individual characters and follow it, or did you have a clear outline of what the end point would be?
I think what's required from a director is that the crew, the actors, the producers, everybody want, and they have every right to do so, to know why the hell did we reunite here for this amount of money to do this thing. Okay, so every day you have to remind people and yourself that the goal, the story, the result is this. Now, actors are living things. They are not puppets. They are not marionettes. The light of Berlin is changing. This location is not exactly what you are supposed to think when you're writing, but it's better or worse, but this is the way it is. So it's like childbirth. You give birth to a kid and you're absolutely right to suppose that it will reflect the wife and the husband. It doesn't. It is the wife and the husband, but it has its own life and being, so you have to follow that very carefully. But if this life, this new life, transgresses or changes the purpose of your meeting here with all these people, kill the kid. If not, follow the kid. And it's a delicate balance, Are the characters really what was on paper? Yes. Are they different? Yes. Because this is the margin of their humanity. You can't ask Heinrich to play otherwise than he can, because he can't otherwise.
Presumably there were tensions in between the individual actors. How did you respond to that?
In real cinema, when what I consider real, there is none, because they are in the soup you're boiling, you're cooking. So they support and like each other. Usually, it's very, very seldom that an actor ego acts against another actor. It's in bad movies only. And when you read all these books about Hollywoodian actors fighting, throwing shadows across the face of each other, etc., it's because the movies are no good. That's it.
At this point in the film, it becomes apparent that the monster's becoming progressively more human. Could you say something about that, please?
Yes, this is the remnants of Carlo Rambaldi's efforts, this is a piece of this huge pink condom he brought. A condom looking more human than an octopus or whatever. It looks like more human, but that was one step in the strategy of building out of pure glue or whatever, sperma, whatever comes out of her, up to the end, which is the perfect human being. So it's haphazard.
You have a very black sense of humour. Were you conscious of the fact that maybe Western audiences might not appreciate it, or did that not bother you at all?
I don't give a heck for audiences, Western or Eastern, I'm the audience. Why the hell would you think that I should exclude me of this audience concept. I'm I'm as much as an audience as anybody. I see Titanic. I see whatever they want to give me as a. Oh my God! So, as far as I understand and as I like and I participate, it's all right with me. And this is not egoism. It's not egotism. I don't give a damn, for idiots or for morons or for people unsensible. And again, it goes the other way around. When I was showing this film to very simple audiences, they responded much more eagerly and in a much more human way than the sophisticated audiences for whom I have no respect at all.
Were you looking for a response in audiences, or did you want to provoke audiences?
No. I'm hoping that I'm not a freak, and that I'm not alone in the universe to enjoy or be thrilled or be grabbed by this kind of movie. I hope I'm not alone, and I saw this film in so many countries and with so many audiences that maybe we are a minority, maybe, all right. But allow me to think that this is a good minority. It's not a bad one.
Now listen, Heinrich. Just stay where you are.
I paid a fortune for the cab.
At the bar at the corner.
Is that what I do?
Bleed for a while.
Can you talk about the significance of having a child in this relationship?
No, because childhood, I use this because this is the truth. This is the way it was in this autobiographical part of the film, and I told you about it. But I don't want to go deeper into it because I think that children are the best part of humanity. It's a separate race. We think we were black or yellow or green or whatever. No, we are children or adults. As long as we are children, we are much more fragile, intelligent, delicate, and close to some form of goodness. I'm all for children, and I'm sorry I try to avoid it, to avoid kids in my films, because I respect them immensely. I don't respect women. I don't respect men. I understand them, which is different. But children I do respect. And I had to do this, and I know that the kid was very happy at the end, and he never did anything which would, I think, hurt him in a way. So it's okay, but I will never do it again.
In this part of the film, we see dismembered bodies, we see blood, we see the bile and slime. Do you draw a line, what you do and do not show? If someone was physically hurt, when should someone stop?
No, I don't. I don't understand the question very, very clearly.
Well, if someone was to be physically hurt, or say, for instance, same with the scene, not so much in the scene with an octopus, but say in your more recent films where they're having sexual relationships, would you shoot, for example, a real sexual act?
No.
Why not?
Because the word acting explains it. As long as you act it, everything's permitted. If you do it or show it, then you enter into another realm of thinking. You infringe. You. In other words, if you do a film about Toulouse-Lautrec was a dwarf, do you really have to cut his legs? If you do a film about a boxer in America, do really the actor have to take 40 or 50 pounds more, which he never shed afterwards? And no, I don't think so. I think this is make believe. Acting is to make believe in the most sincere way, in a way, in the way. So no, I would never go for cinema from the beginning, from its start. When it started, really wanted only one thing: to have the camera penetrate into a woman like a penis would. This is the main goal of the history of cinema. They did it. It's called porno films. Okay, so we are. Thank you for porno films. We don't have to do that. We don't have to go into this confused and murky area in which everything is mixed up. No, I think as long as an actor acts, an actress acts, and you, the director, make it the more believable possible, it's okay. If they do it really, morally speaking, it becomes very, very, very reprehensible.
I thought she was pulling my leg, but no, there's blood. She cuts them. A monster, a joke, but it was alive.
You're drunk, Heinrich.
She cuts us to pieces, Marv.
Maybe she just didn't want to see.
It seems very obvious that Mark's actually destroying the evidence of the dismembered private detective in the apartment to protect Anna, and then he goes on to kill Heinrich. Why does he kill Heinrich?
First, because he hates him, which maybe is not a reason enough, and because he entered a corkscrew, a spiral, in which he starts to resemble the woman, the wife, and he starts to do things she did. He's doomed.
Is that why his reaction when he goes into the apartment is much stronger than it is in, say, the previous parts of the film, with him retching, going around in circles?
Yes, he is in this, exactly. He is in this I can't find another word. A spiral. He's plunging. He's becoming the wife, because they are becoming one. And this couple, this two people who couldn't be one apparently when they were in the real world, are becoming one in the craziness, in the folly, in this malady of the soul, which is killing, which is destroying, which is really eradicating the bad weeds from their path. And so now he's a Gianni at that part.
When Mark kills Heinrich, he does so in a very cold and calculated way. Is this a reflection on Mark's personality or his situation?
I don't know. He's doing it in a very surrealistic way. He found an old basket shoe and a feather, as far as I remember, which is surrealistic. Do you really think you kill somebody like this? This is almost artistic in a way.
But he's making the scene so it looks like Heinrich's vomited on his own drug taking.
Yes,
which is in keeping with his profession.
Yes, he's trying to direct. He's trying to be the director, to the le metteur en scène, as they say in French, the director of something which overflew him like this toilet, and he's far away. He's really far away.
And does it follow what you were previously saying about colour, that the toilets have to be red, and they're the only, as far as I can recall, the only red scene in the film?
Right. Look at this. Is this realistic?
Heinrich, help me out of here. I'm sick.
I'm the one who is wounded, not you!
Please.
Why do you think it's necessary that Heinrich should end here at this point in the film?
In the loo?
Is his character redundant now in the story?
I don't know. I think he's maybe it's a vengeance of mine, that these people find their end in a toilet bowl with water overflowing and shit and whatever. I told you at the beginning, I hate him. This is the way of killing something I hate.
There are various points on the actual music which recur throughout the film. Was this deliberate, or did you give these instructions to your composer? These motifs, these sounds, whatever, like the piano in some scenes and this violent music in others. It doesn't necessarily correspond with normal, say, Hollywood placement of music in films.
No, because music tries to illustrate, in this film, to illustrate, to reflect upon the soul of the thing, not about the body of the thing. You know, I've heard some fantastically good musics in cinema, and it's always the case. You know, Nino Rota with Fellini, for instance, doesn't reflect exactly the body of the film. It reflects the nostalgia, what should it have been, but it's really not. And this distance gives you, in my mind, perspective upon what you're viewing.
In that previous scene, why did you go out of the way to have, like, say, an old woman running around screaming? I mean, that surely has never happened in any corresponding scene, and say...
Oh, come on, I see always old women screaming about anything.
But in real life, as opposed to Hollywood films?
Oh, no, in Hollywoodian films, in New York, in the street, I mean, it's all over the place. No. It's, it's little touches of irony. If you've said, I seldom use the word because I don't really know if it's understandable, but this surrealistic things that would ask for a long commentary and very highbrow and way to do that.
Okay,
but between realism in this film and surrealism, which is realism plus. Surrealism is just you take elements of reality and you put them together, and suddenly it doesn't fit. It becomes like unglued together. It's a composition of things which from real life, like this. They wash in the tub, but the situation is totally crazy. It's abstract, and this surrealistic streak I admire very much when I'm in contact with.
Does this surrealism come from like a Polish tradition of like Gombrowicz and Schultz, or is it more cinematic, say for instance Buñuel?
Oh, come on, yes, but it's also Ezra Pound in America. It's also, I don't know, André Breton in France. No, I think it's a component of the European way of thinking. We are aware of the... it's like the Magritte painting. He was Belgian. It's the way that we can look at reality, not only as reality unfolding with its rules and we have to follow it, and this is Hollywood. But we can also look at it like therefore the mirrors, therefore the camera mirror. We can take like a step back and see it in its absurd and grotesque and thrilling meaningfulness.
When you say that to financiers, do they say, fine, we'll
they
fund
hate
this?
it. Look, they hate it. This is the part they hate, because they know that at this point you lose your audience.
Is this why you spent 3 years fighting for this film to be made?
Complicated question, because I never fought for anything in my lifetime. I was thrown out of Poland because I was making anti-communist films. I was not exactly well viewed or seen in France, in the Western world, because I was doing films like this one, which transgressed some rules, some unwritten rules about stick to the reality, cut your film, be normal.
However, your films were popular in Poland, like The Third Part of the Night, which had over 1 million viewers.
Yes, that's true, but the whole country was going through a surrealistic period of communism, and nobody believed in communism in Poland. It was absolutely, it was a reality which authorities, which the army, the police, imposed on people, and people didn't want it. And this is a reality imposed on this guy, Sam Neill. He doesn't want it. He wants to understand, to go in, to play according to the crazy rules of his wife. This is surrealistic. This is when the personality divides into the decent guy who would call the police, first place.
But you're not limited by the theories of surrealism like someone like Dali or...
No, because it's not a movement. They grab upon something which is deeply ingrained in us, and they build a theory out of it. I don't. I feel that this is in me. This. When I go to see, we're talking about Titanic, which is quite a good film, by the way. I go to see. I feel surrealistic. It's not the film. It's me in the audience looking at this film, it's a surrealistic situation. This is crazy. What the hell am I doing in this audience? Eating popcorn and looking at that, Wake up, I say to myself. Wake up, where are you? Who are you? What's going on? This is surrealism. And the fact that if you look carefully, the camera is very much, yes, it's or very low down or very high up. It's not the normal point of view on things either.
I mean, in this scene, Mark covers Margie with a body bag in the same cold way as he does Heinrich, but does it follow on from that Mark also, you yourself, hate Margie in the same way that you hate Heinrich?
No, I don't. When I said to you that I hate Heinrich, I hate the results of their being, their actions. Margie is an innocent idiot.
Anna has to protect her creature, whatever.
Anna has to protect it. That's what he thinks, Mark thinks. Therefore, he does look. It's totally crazy. He disconnected. He's out of the real world. Look at the position of the camera. Look at the movement. It's out of reality. It doesn't exist. Still, it exists.
Do you think the architecture of Berlin lent that kind of special quality to the film?
Oh, certainly yes, but I think that any place we live in, don't you think that this film in L.A., for instance, would work the same? I think yes, but I didn't know it at that time. I was European. I understood Berlin. I understood that there's a bigger meaning in the film that only the walls of the city would provide. But today I would do it, in Chicago. Why not?
One final question about the metaphors and ideas of the film. Can you say something about this dialogue, about the separation between body and soul, between the conversation of Mark and Heinrich's mother?
Yes, but again, if you please, without conclusions, because I think that this is the same conversation, the same monologue Anna had being filmed by Heinrich, which is we don't really understand, which is what are the ways in which this elevator between the head and the senses, the head and the sex, and this elevator going up and down in our body, in our what we call soul, which is our thinking work. And we don't know how this other lateral horizontal elevator goes between us and the external world. I don't want to, that will be really complicated to explain. But I know one thing, that whomever the humankind can go into like anything. Believers can go farther than the others. He believes in his wife. He believes, therefore, in her folly, in her madness. And if the only way to get close to her, to contact with her, to recontact, to love her, to be loved by her again, is through this, he'll go there. And it's a simple domestic folly, you know. When you see what the Germans did, or Stalin did, or Mao Zedong did, it's a more generalistic folly. But in fact, it's the same thing. To believe, I don't believe.
This film's about family drama. Why do we see Heinrich's mother? And why do we not see, say, for instance, Anna's mother or Mark's mother?
There was, as we talked about it, there was an Anna's husband who explained a lot. So we know much less about her than about him.
I promise.
Finally, with regards to the structure of the film, could you say something about how you felt when this film was brought from America and radically restructured and given re-edited and given new music?
I don't know. I never saw the pseudo-American version. I don't give a damn. Again, you know, this is cinema. This is not Michelangelo's works. They take, they kill, they destroy, they rehash if they have the right to. The problem is not to give them the right to, and as far as I don't understand the European struggle against American cinema. I think America invented this medium, you know, like the Japanese invented the modern photo camera, the little thing, you know, and they have every right to be the best about it. America is the best about movies because they understood how to regroup your capitals, how to invest $150 million in a film. Europe cannot do it, but Europe is richer than America. So if a film goes into the wrong hands, the dirty hands, spoil your film, kill your film, rehash your film. All right, this is the history of cinema. You know, they've thrown Orson Welles and other greater directors from Hollywood. So what? This is. I'm sorry, just to finish. This is the risk you take undertaking this job. This is not, you know, it's not protected. We shouldn't be protected. We should be vulnerable, do films which are rehashed. Who cares? And if one day somebody with goodwill, somebody with good understanding will rebuild, reconstruct the thing you wanted to say and try to explain it to audiences, I say thank you, bravo. Which is what we are witnessing now.
Why do you feel it necessary to actually have this scene be? Why do we have to see the monster lovemaking with Anna? And what was the atmosphere like when you actually shot it? Because it's probably the most bizarre film of this type.
This is anecdote again. You know, in order to have anybody fuck Anna, as you say, make love to Anna, we had three assistants glued to a mattress. You know, it's so funny to do these things because it's not what you see by the end. It's just a series of technical problems. As we never had the monster, we had to deal with the very primitive contraptions, things, in order to make it move. She was very brave because she was like the object of. So acting and meaning comes very much later in the night. We started to shoot at 6 p.m. and she had her close-up, I think, at 4 a.m, you know. And you don't think like that. You think about providing a show, a spectacle, which is made of obstacles. It's not the way it should have been, you know. I don't know. My wife tells me always that I've never been to a normal set with normal people doing normal films in which the director doesn't know where to put the camera. They have too much money, and she just shot a huge film in which the problem was that they had 10 cameras and never knew where to put the cameras. We in Europe have a certain set of very simple obstacles in order to put anything on screen. And there is a very happy point in which actors, director, camera crew are so much in the difficulty of doing that they don't think about the abstract meaning of things.
Can you say something briefly about your very successful professional and personal relationship with Sophie Marceau and how this is stretched from your own films onto Hollywood films. How do you feel about this?
Look, I will gladly do it if she was on screen in this one. But at that point, she was like 6 years old, and I wouldn't.
In this scene, I mean, for example, the window opening, most people, when they watch your films, remember the violence, the screaming and the yelling. Yet you don't have to underline. Your films are very lucid, but you don't exclude the more subtle aspects of your film.
Look, the Bible says that the Spirit blows where, I'm translating from Polish, I'm sorry, blows where it wants to blow. And in this scene, it blows through the window.
You have no problem, although you just said, you're not a Christian, but you have no problem actually taking imagery and passages from the Bible into your films.
It's my culture. I have no problems. Picasso said one thing which is absolutely marvelous in its disingenuity. It's totally cynical and totally true. He said there are no rules, but this is like the beginning of a sentence. The second half of the sentence for me is, but you have to know. You have to know. There is no rules for those who know, who have read, who have seen, who have, it's called general culture. I don't know how to call it, literature, paintings, look at this, light, music. This is my culture, so I use it. And I'm the owner of that. You are the owner of that. Use it. It's not in the museum. It's not locked. It's because we did it. Our fathers did it. So we use it.
If I can interrupt here, I mean, you talk about your culture, and here again you use the image of a dead dog. I mean, you've talked about, in your previous film, the devil manifests itself at the end of the film as a dog.
This is a slight little spoof on American cinema, It's he suddenly talks like Montgomery Clift in a very psychoanalytic American film made by Joe Mankiewicz or whatever. Here it comes.
He wants you. In fact, Mark.
Is this a satire of
attempts
to
actually
theorize films?
No, it's a light touch. It's amusing to have an American, and he, in our eyes, coming from New Zealand, he was much more Western and American in a way, okay, than every one of us. So, and it was his idea, and I think he thought it genuinely pregnant with meaning, talking about his dog, etc. And I was quietly laughing because I'm from a very my culture is much more ironic.
Nobody's a boy anymore.
You've talked about your dislike of improvised performances, but did the actors actually have any input in the film other than themselves, their presence?
No, usually I'm not for it because I don't think that an actor is necessarily an author. I don't think that the best actor can provide dialogue, which is a craft in itself. But sometimes they have this genuine impulse to say something coming from the guts, the liver, the heart. And usually I say, okay, do it. And usually it doesn't mean what they thought it will. But it gives a light on their shortcomings rather than grandeur.
Impression with the police car.
My pleasure, sir.
I have to tell you an anecdote because I had in this film, as we were short of money, we used Yugoslav stunt people, and you've just seen one in action, and they were like 15 crazy guys, totally drunk from morning till night, who were saying, "Listen, Andre, if you want, I jump from this building and bang my head 15 floors beyond. Bluff, it will be beautiful." I said, "No, please don't. There is no use to do it." So this guy jumping from the taxi just a minute ago was always jumping on his head and cutting his head, and said, "I don't need that, please don't do that. It will be very difficult for me afterwards to have an actor with blood on his forehead for the rest of the film." And they were doing it for the beauty of the thing. And you will see very, very, very soon. This is made by an Austrian stuntman. This is the only really difficult thing to do in a film. It's hard pavement. He had like 4 meters to do that.
And we see it several times.
No, it was 3 cameras only, and he did it once because it was extremely dangerous. It's on concrete. There is no soft spot, and if he would miscalculate his stunt, he would end up in the water, and the water was East Berlin, so he would end up I don't know in what jail over there.
Did you say something about staircases? Because in your first film you have staircase, and it seems to be a recurring motif in your films.
Yes, because a staircase comes from basement till heaven. To heaven, and this movement, it's the, how do you say that in English? L'échelle de Jacob in the Bible, the ladder. Yes, Jacob's ladder, and he was fighting an angel, as far as I remember. So staircases in this modern world, for me, there's always light at the end. And if you allow me to say anything about my films, which is of a more general nature, I think that everything I do is to show always this tunnel, this murky part, this muddling, this struggling, and the light at the end, which you can or hopefully can attain. So a staircase is a good place to go vertical.
Why does the monster become Sam Neill at the end of the film?
It was intended to be Sam Neill from the beginning, as I told you, because Anna cannot recreate anything, anybody, other than the husband, because in fact it's a love story. The whole thing, it's a small love story, but between people who cannot connect, comprehend, understand, be together.
Can you say one final word about the cinematography in this scene? I mean, obviously it's very exposed in the background and very white, and also the scene which you regret about the eyes.
Well, yes, here he goes, and he should have the eyes of the other woman, the very, very blue, clean, clear eyes of a monster.
Those the same eyes as Helen?
Yes. And he has the eyes in his sockets, but they were brown in the film, and I hated this diopia ever after.
So do you think that's maybe a major contributing factor to why the film was received with some bafflement on behalf of, say...
Oh, no, I don't think so. The bafflement comes from the general structure, This is details. We are talking about details, really. They never wanted to see such a story, and that's it.
And also within the wider account, one final word about theory. This film consciously alludes theories, a psychoanalytic theory or whatever. Do you think also this is a reason why critics have ignored this film?
They didn't. I have somewhere in my attic, I have an immense pile of papers, articles, newspapers.
But in the Anglo-American tradition, say?
Yeah, but I don't care. The Anglo-American tradition is not mine, so I don't care, really. So I couldn't give a damn. I'm very happy that this film will be seen maybe today by somebody over there, but that was not the purpose of the film.
Can you say something about the blood on both the characters' faces, and how at this point they transfer from our main characters to the artificial Sam Neill and Helen? who carry on the rest of the film. Why did you feel this is necessary?
Under Stalin, Russia had a very good minister of culture. His name was Zhdanov. And when he was seeing something, a painting, a book, he was saying, is it really necessary? It's not necessary. Send him to Siberia. So send me to Siberia. It's not necessary. Nothing's necessary. A film is not necessary. It's the way I see things.
I mean, usually the couple shot on the staircase covered in blood. I mean, this usually be the end of the film. Yet you go further. You have the artificial...
I'll tell you more.
Okay.
I'll tell you more. My dream, but that was the last day of shooting. And we couldn't go one day more because we had no money to do it. But I was dreaming about him going up to the roof through these glass windows, which it stops up here, okay? And just walking Berlin on the roofs and seeing the eastern part, the evil part, and the western part, and just floating like the devil, you know, above this corrupted, strange, divided city. We couldn't do it. We just hadn't. I haven't have the time to do it. One day more, I would do it. So the end would even not be the end you see. It will be more.
Finally, in all your films, especially this film, your last film, Shamanka, and your first film, The Third Part of the Night, you literally end with an apocalypse. Can you say something about that?
I was born from an apocalypse look. I was born in a city in Poland in 1940, and my sister died from hunger, and my mother and my father were the only surviving people from a huge family. And I don't know by what miracle I survived. Maybe I was 3 or 4 and a bit stronger than my sister was, certainly. So for me, everything begins with an apocalypse. And I hope it won't end with an apocalypse for my sons. But I'm a bit pessimistic about it. So it ends the way it has begun for me.
But this is ingrained in your culture. Do you feel a responsibility to forget, or do you think we shouldn't forget?
No, we shouldn't ever forget, but we shouldn't be the judges of history. You know, we should. It will sound so old-fashioned. We should do our best with the devils and the angels and what's given us.